Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Monday, Mishmash Monday. We've got a few things to cover. I'm going to try and get some kind of restoration in, although it's a little difficult to stand up for a while, so that's why I'm trying to get some things done around here. I'll tell you the truth today, being when it starts getting a little chilly like it is now, we're getting into the winter season. I kind of miss the scouting season that we used to have, and I did enjoy it so much for so many years. And, we had a school up here that would host the scouts, and I had the full access to the auditorium and the gym, and they were both huge spaces, and I would go there sometimes 2 hours before the meeting, and I would just mess around. I would do all kind, whatever I felt like doing. I mean, imagine having a gymnasium at your disposal or a auditorium. Sometimes I would bring my bow up there and I'd go shooting for a while, or I'd bring all kinds of my skateboard, my old Stingray bicycle. I would just go up there and just, fool around. And the whole gymnasium was good. Bring a basketball, whatever you wanted. But one of the things that we did about this time, I always tried to get the boys to use their hands, to make stuff, to be interested in making anything they wanted. So one of the things I came up with was mousetrap cars. Now, these go back to the 40s or something, but mousetrap cars were, the boys would have to build a car powered simply by the spring of a mousetrap, and it's pretty interesting. And I would bring down a whole bunch of mousetraps and all kinds of wheels and parts, and say, okay, next week I want to see a working mousetrap car, and I would show them how to build it, and I'd bring down some bearings and things like that, and we had a lot of fun with those. And I was looking through because I was cleaning up. I found a couple of old ones. Let me show you some of the old mousetrap, and it was a lot of fun. It's a great exercise in engineering. Okay, so basically here's your traditional mousetrap that's probably unchanged in maybe 100 years. What a design this was, huh? Now, just for the record, I have a heart trap, and any mouse that comes to my house, I give them a free passage to Connecticut where I release them, and if it's in the wintertime, I actually hold them over until the springtime. But I'm a fan of mice, but these are an amazing invention. They've been trying to improve this for 100 years, and they still haven't done it. But what's great is, there's a way to make a car, a vehicle out of these. And, when you have this much spring power here, you see that spring power? That's, if you can get that to drive some wheels, and the kids loved it. And it was a lot of fun. Here's a typical example here. See this here? And here, all it is 3 wheels. You can get any kind of wheels. And I have a nail in here just to hold the trap over. But you could see that if you let the way I have it wrapped around, the axle, you have little eye screws here holding an axle. And if you wanted to race the car, you would put it down. And then when you released it like this, you could see it would send it across. And if you can get it to go across the auditorium, we would have it how far it goes. So obviously, the longer shaft that you have, the more farther it'll go. Also, the bigger the wheels. Every time this turns once, it might go 6 inches. But if you have a bigger wheel, it might go, 18 inches. So we were trying to get bigger wheels. So that's where these came in. I would get a whole bunch of these CDs. Remember, you can get these anywhere years ago. I would get these CDs, and then I would make little bearings for them that they could make wheels. And let me show you. One funny side note is when I was buying about 60 mousetraps, you should have seen the lady at Home Depot's face when I went up to the counter, and I guess she thought I had some kind of infestation problem. Now, this is what the finished cars would look like, and you can see here, it's a simple design. It's just a straight shaft. This would be the chassis. Here's the motor, and the motor is the mousetrap, and we have a little arrow shaft that runs up here because the longer you have that pull that thread, and you can see the thread is wrapped around the axle. It's a very simple design. And up here we have it that you could steer it slightly, you just, if it was veering one way or the other, because, they're not super true. But let me show you how this, the motor actually works. This is old and it's taken a beating in storage, but you can see here by starting it, you can see here, and that would run down, and we would have it run, and the string would release after it was finished. But we would have it run, and then if it ran all the way down, maybe 100 feet or whatever, and again, whoever went the longest would win. Now, remember the other mousetrap car, the wheels were only this big, and you see how long these are. For every revolution, I'll figure it out and see how long it goes on a CD. So the idea was to get the bigger wheel, the biggest wheel you can get, to go the farthest on per revolution. Now, you can see here, we're going to put the arrow right here in the beginning of the tape measurer, and we'll roll it down like this, and you could see that one revolution of a CD gives you 15¼ inches of travel. So the larger the revolution, the better, but you also got to keep the weight down. So we came up with all different kind of final entry into the mousetrap cars was this. I made this out of 3 33 1/3. Remember these old records? And I used the same mousetrap, the same design here. I used a ribbon because the ribbon was so thin that you could wrap it around more. I used carbon fiber shaft here, an arrow shaft, and you can see here, and I even had a bearing on the front here, and I'll show you how smooth that was. Now you could see by using a bearing in the front shaft, you could see there was hardly any drag on it. So at the 33 1/3 wreckage, you know, you would steer it from back here. You know, you would have to move it here and wherever to get it set straight. But this thing would spin and roll. And this was the championship one. This one won just about all the contests. I'm often wondering how far a 33 1/3 record will roll per revolution. So let's check. So that's my question. I'll have the answer at the end of the video. If a CD will go 15¼ inches, how far will a 33 1/3 record album go in one revolution in inches? And try and think about that to the end of the video. Next up on the Mosh, I'm going to show you how to calibrate or pretty much check a level to see if it's on the level. Let's go do it. The first thing you're going to want is a flat surface, something that's pretty flat. This one here, I bought this piece of tile years ago at Home Depot for a couple dollars, and it's a nice flat surface that I use for anything that doesn't have to be super precision, but still better than, you know, a piece of plywood or something. So just get yourself a flat surface. Now, the beauty of having so many different types of levels is that, you know, you can use them for different purposes, but basically they all have the same purpose in mind, and that is finding a level surface or leveling out a surface. But how do you know when you buy a level, especially if you buy one used, if it's accurate? And I'm going to show you how this will work with all these different levels. And this isn't a machinist type level, but you can use it with any type of level. Now, the first thing you're going to want is you're going to want something, besides being flat, you want a repeatable surface, which means I'm going to check it two ways, and I want to make sure that it's exactly the same each way. So I put two pieces of tape here, and we'll bring the one side here to the one edge and one edge directly to the other, and then we'll look at the bubble. And you can see the bubble is about 30% over on one side. You see that? That line is intersecting that bubble by about 30% to the left. Now we're going to flip the level 180 degrees in the same exact spot. And if the bubble reads exactly the same, we know that the level is good. And we're looking over here and we can see it reads exactly the same. So this level is good. Now, if it wasn't reading the same, then you would have to adjust the bubble. But that's how you check your level. Now you can see, again, this surface is not level, but the level is good. Now, the beauty about a machinist level or something like that is you can see this adjusting nut here. This nut is so that you can adjust the vial up and down and adjust your machinist level so that it's perfectly level without having to fuss otherwise. So I'm going to show you how. Now you can see here this level, I purposely have this one out of whack so you would see what one would look like. Now if you look here, you see here that it's you have that long line, and then you have that short line right next to it. It's just before the short line. Now I'm going to flip it around. Remember where that bubble is. Okay, I'm flipping it around here, putting it in the same exact spot, and look how far off that is. Instead of being over here, it's two lines over. So now what we would have to do is raise this side up and bring it over and keep doing that back and forth until we get this level back in calibration. Now I placed a shim underneath the side that wasn't level, and now just to level it out, to give you an example and show you that now we have the plate level, the base here, and you can see what it looks like. That is fairly level. You can see here. I'll move the this over here. You can see it's right about level, and then I'll flip it around again, and you can see it's right about level again. So you can see that this is fine, and it was the plate that was off. Once you level off a plate like that, you can quickly check your levels to see if they work, if they're level or if they're on level. And another thing is, if you ever look for a level and you see one with a set screw that's adjustable, that's even a better level, because then you can always adjust it. But when you have ones like this that aren't adjustable, you have to know your level and see whether or not it's going to be trustworthy. So it's always great to come across somebody selling a level real cheap because they think that the level is it's off, when most levels can be adjusted and fixed to be level. Okay, next up, I want to talk about something that I should have mentioned a long time ago. It's just has to do with first aid. Let's go to it. Okay, the next thing everybody should have is get yourself an old jelly jar and fill this up with tweezers and everything to get splinters out, and a good, well, a magnifying glass is okay, but you really should have a good pair of magnifying glasses that magnify a lot. And let me show you what's in this jar that works so well. Now I can pretty much guarantee you that if you do any kind of woodworking or metalworking, that sooner or later you are going to get a splinter or a metal splinter or some kind of shard into your skin, and it's going to hurt, and you're going to, you know, it's something you're going to want to take out. And I have this kit in my my medicine cabinet upstairs, and when I which I often do, get a splinter or something, I go right to my kit and take it out. And what I have in there, this one here is a magnifying glass. You could see that has a tweezer attached to it. Works very nice, but you really need a good pair of glasses, a lot of light. Here's another type of tweezers, this one here, because it's pretty stout, you can pull something out. But a lot of these tweezers, you know, some tweezers are not really that good, like this one here. You know, this one here, it might be for eyelashes. This one's not as good as some of these. This one here was a little bit more expensive, but you could see this one here is very precise, and it could really get in close and take out whatever you had to take out. So that's a real, but when all these fail that you can't pull it out with a tweezer, what I want to talk about is this one here. This is called, MetaPoint makes this, and it's called Splinter Out. And it comes in, they're all sterile, and you buy them in a package like this, and it comes in, you tear it here. When you tear it, this is what's inside. And let me tell you about this. What's so great about this little, this is like a lance, and you've seen these before. Sometimes people, they use these to draw blood or whatever, but you can see here that this is made specifically to take out a splinter. Here's the instructions. You can see it's from Mineola, New York, and I bought these a while ago, and I'll tell you something. This thing has saved me more than once, and it's such a sharp, small point that this will get under the skin and it won't even hurt. When it's so sharp that it gets, and I pulled out metal splinters, wood splinters, all kinds of splinters. It's surgical steel. It's fantastic, and you really need to have this kit before you need it. Now, years ago, I used to use old sewing needles and pins and things like that to try and pry out a splinter that was embedded deep, but nothing works like that Splinter Out. Well worth the money. Pick them up. You won't regret it. Anyway, I hope this helped out. Thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you have a nice day. Take care now. Bye-bye. And the answer is, to our question, 37.5 inches, or just about. That's pretty interesting.